Hello and welcome to Banking Innovation Summit. My name is Mark Johnston and I'm your host for the next 45 minutes. Now this first session of today is called Building a Next Generation Bank Fit for a Digital Age. Now in a moment I'm going to introduce our excellent panelists, but first of all a word for you, our audience at home. We want to hear your thoughts, we want to hear your opinions, we want to hear whatever you've got to say. Pop it in the chat function and we'll bring it into the discussion as we can, okay? Why don't you start off by just telling us where you are today? Where are you viewing us from today? Let's get that chat rolling right from the start. Okay, so on to our excellent panelists, because we've got a lot of ground to cover today. It's my pleasure to welcome to Banking Innovation Summit. First of all, Marcus Burgess of HSBC. Marcus, welcome to the discussion. Can you just give us a quick 30 seconds on who you are, please?
Thanks. Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Marcus. I run online and mobile banking for HSBC. So primarily that involves running our platforms, building product improvements to those channels. Increasingly, as the bank and our customer interactions become more digital, that involves working with the rest of our business on how we can build really great products and propositions on top of our mobile app and online banking to help customers do what they need to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Marcus. And welcome also to Susanna Ponce-Froment from Tide. Hello, Susanna. A quick 30 seconds on who you are, please.
Yeah, hello, everybody. My name is Susana, as mentioned, and I am the head of credit and financial risk at Tide. And my main function is to make sure that we manage the risk, we identify and manage the risk of the credit products and the financial services that we provide. And I have 17 years of experience in the financial industry globally. I have worked with teams in 32 countries and specialize in risk management, innovation, and credit administration.
Thank you very much for that, Susanna. And Babel, Poli from Northmill Bank, welcome to the discussion. Introduce yourself, please, Babel.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Babel, as Mark mentioned. I'm from Northmill Bank. I'm the VP of product here, and what I do is I work closely with our product managers and our product teams to make sure that we reach our objectives and all the teams and the PMs have what they need to be successful.
Thank you very much for that, Babel. Now, finally, and by no means least, we've got the wonderful Jean-Phillipe Desbiolles of IBM. I hope I said that right, Jean-Phillipe. Jean-Phillipe will be moderating the session today, bringing your questions in. Jean-Phillipe, just a quick intro from you, please.
Except the fact that I am wonderful, so I'm working for IBM since now more than 20 years. I am passionate about transformational projects in the banking industry. I had the chance to work in Asia during a few years after I moved to US working on AI program for banking industry. And I will be very happy today to share my perspective about what our customers are doing on a global standpoint on this topic around transformation, but not only on a technological standpoint, but not on a business standpoint, on a people standpoint, organizational perspective. And I will try to fuel the team and all this public with all this insight today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Jean-Phillipe. I can see a few of you introducing yourselves in the chat as well. Hello to Asan. Hello to Alina in Bristol, where I am today. Hello to Sanjida from Stockholm. Theo from Paris. We've got Marie from Brussels. Rakesh from London. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Do put your questions in the chat if you have any, okay? So, first of all, I'd like to start with a question for Jean-Phillipe, which is, what does the future of banking look like? Now, we'll set the scene with that. Now, if we break that question down a little bit, Jean-Phillipe, first question as part of that for you is, we hear a lot about transformation and digital today, but what is your view on the real hot topics financial service players should focus on?
Maybe, Mark, you're absolutely right, because obviously everybody is talking about transformation, and digital are the magic words of the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years, and on purpose, by the way, because we have no choice. We are under a huge transformation, and digital is a key thing. But between you and me, if we see this dynamic, I think that we are not facing only an acceleration, but we see on the industry, I'm talking about the banking industry, a significant effort for banks to put transformation at scale. They try to industrialize this transformation within big organizations which are operating by design at global level. And when you think about what does that mean concretely, when you think about what means to scale transformation within an organization, at least in my perspective, it means three things. The first thing is, if you want to scale, you need to identify, design, and deploy an operating model which allow you to scale transformation, to scale digital, to scale AI data within the organization for client benefits. That's why many banks are working on what we call AI Factory, Center of Excellence, and many other operating models which enable them to deploy at scale innovation and transformation. Topic number two, you cannot scale if today you are not able to have an AI and data platform in order to support the transformation. You have not AI on one side, data on the other side. We know that these two topics are working together, and this is the beginning of a combination of structured and unstructured data, which are at the heart of this topic around transformation. Last but not least, it's all about trust. Nothing can be done if the banking industry is not able to demonstrate that what they do can be trusted. And in the era of digital, trust means you need to be transparent, you need to be explicable, and you need to be robust. If one of these characteristics is missing, you know what, Mark? You cannot be trusted, and without trust, you cannot do anything. Having said that, Mark, you asked me about the hot topics. What is hot today? So many things is hot today, but at least I select three domains very quickly. Customer experience. We are changing the whole UX, UI of the interaction between the customer and the bank. Topic number one. Topic number two, we need to work on the employees of the banks who are working on a daily basis, facing the customer in the branches, in the contact center, behind the scene on the internet channel. Many people are working in the banking industry. We need to empower these people to face and to be able to advise the customer. And the last one is about what I call intelligent processes. I think that today our challenge is to embed transformation within the business processes. And what does that mean? It means that we have to redesign business processes. Easy to say, difficult to do.
Thank you very much for that, Jean-Phillipe. Some great insight on some the hot topics. I'm just looking at the chat, and there's not a lot of hot going on in the chat at the moment. Evo saying they're dialing in from rainy Antwerp, Funmi from rainy London, and Tao from freezing Oslo. So that's interesting. Listen, another question I got for you, Jean-Phillipe, before we move into the major panel. AI, buzzword or reality? In a few words, what is really the promise here?
Alors, I'm not here to do my promotion, but I wrote a book a few years ago now, which is called AI Will Be What You Will Make of It. So point number one, AI is a reality. Point number two, we need to embrace this challenge to make it work as we want to make it work. Because at the end of the day, this is all about us and nobody else. It's all about us to train this system, to build this system, to make sure they provide the value we expect from them. Having said that, let me demystify three things. And I will try to take three preconceived ideas around AI. When you talk about AI to somebody, usually it takes, let's say, 2 seconds, 3 seconds before we are talking about data. Yes, data is important, but we are missing one point. The promise of AI is all about training. It's all about learning. The difference between the analytics world and AI is about one thing. We are facing machines which are learning from us. It's all about a new pedagogy between humans and machine to make sure AI is working well, at least is working as we want. Point number two, when we talk about AI, usually it takes, let's say, 6 seconds before somebody is talking to me about mathematics, algorithms, models. Fine, super. Yes, we have models behind AI. But between you and me, AI is about cognitive sciences. It's about vision, is about voice, is about language, is about reasoning, and many other things. So please, 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 let's be open. Let's be diverse in what we do around AI in terms of competencies, in terms of skills, in terms of people. This is the critical success factor to make sure that AI will be what we want it to be. Last thing, and I'm talking about IBM, please give me a break. AI is not only about technology. AI is about technology and human. Human has to continue to be at the heart of what we do around AI. If you talk to me, Mark, about lessons learned, just 3 of them, be bold, don't be shy, let's reshape the business processes. Lessons learned number 2, integrate AI and data with legacy system. I know that integration is not the sexy part of the project, but if you don't integrate AI and data within legacy system, you will not get any ROI, payback, and value. It's all about integration within the legacy system. And last but not least, human. We need to work on adoption, appropriation, training, education of people in order to make sure that we are building the right set of skills, behaviors, in order to make sure that AI is becoming a reality within the enterprise and the society.
Great, thank you very much for that, Jean-Phillipe. Right, let's bring in the rest of our panelists now. So, first question for the rest of the panel we have is, what does a modern bank need to offer to meet changing customer expectations, okay? Susanna, let's come to you first with that question, please.
Yes, so in my view, one of the main things that a modern bank needs to do is to focus on the client's needs. So truly have a customer-centric model and understand what the different segments of clients they have exactly need, and build the product suite around those needs. And let me give you an example. For example, the small business, and I work in a small business challenger bank. Small business clients, what they are looking for is speedy support. They are looking for reduced admin tasks, gain more time to manage their businesses, and quick, efficient solutions and affordable solutions. On the other side, commercial bankers, corporate and commercial banking clients, they are looking for customized and more flexible banking solutions. They are looking for partners. We're looking for banks who are which and relationship managers which are able to provide insights in how they are managing their businesses and provide relevant solutions for those businesses in terms of financing, for example, trade finance. If they are doing global operations. So that's one factor. So in my view, that's an important item that the banks have to consider and build capabilities around it. Capabilities in terms of, as Jean-Phillipe mentioned, in terms of artificial intelligence, data-driven solutions, making sure that the solutions are distributed via like an omni-channel with the same customer experience, being a digital channel, a mobile channel, or a branch if needed for more complex transactions. Additionally, I think that we need to provide great value for those services, because the expectation today from the customers is that the banks are using the information, the data that they have, to offer the best product with the best rates and the best terms for them. So basically, building that data analysis capability. And finally, I think that what the bank needs to do as well is to train their employees and to have the right skill sets to embrace change, to adopt change, and to train in that learning culture, which will enable to keep up with the ongoing changes that are happening in the industry in terms of technology, and to adapt to new challenger banks, for example, to improve their value proposition and the customer experience.
Thank you very much for that, Susanna. And Marcus, let's bring you in at this point. That question for you as well. What does a modern bank need to offer to meet changing consumer expectations?
Yes, I think maybe the first thing to say is I think the customer problems that we face are still very similar to what they have been for a long time, for the last 50 years, which is, and I mean the core customer problems of I want to deposit money that I've earned, I want to save towards goals that I have in future, or I want to borrow to be able to accelerate that. I think the thing that's changed is, like you say, the expectation of customers around that. So digital's brought in an era where people want to be able to do that on the go. They don't want to have to visit somewhere physically or wait on a phone to talk to somebody. They want to be able to achieve what they want to achieve using their phone and do that straight away. So I think the first point is be where customers need you to be, provide services in the channel they want to interact with you, and allow them to do all of what they would have done 50 years ago, but in a branch, but do that in their channel of choice. And then I think the second point, really linking back to what Jean-Phillipe was saying right at the start, is the kind of beauty of digital is that we now have so much data on what customers are doing and are able to use that to really personalize experiences for customers. And I think customers, when they use banking products, they're not benchmarking those again. They're not like us who use 10 or 15 different banking products because we enjoy it. They use one or two and they benchmark us against Uber, against consumer tech products more generally, and expectations there are raised to a really high bar around what personalization means. And I think increasingly in future, modern banks are going to have to use the data they've got and the tooling that we've discussed to really create a kind of personalized experience to help customers fulfill those kind of ultimately the same needs they've got, but just in a much more personalized and dynamic way.
Great, thank you very much for that, Marcus. And Babel, let's bring you in on that one as well. What are your thoughts? What does a modern bank need to offer to meet changing customer expectations?
Well, kind of filling on to what the other speakers have said already. Like customer centricity is extremely important. Like figuring out what problems they have, and even more important is to figuring out how to solve those problems and doing it as quickly as possible, because our customers don't want to wait anymore. Kind of what Marcus said. You have to be there, and you have to be there quickly. And that also requires you to both organize for that, but also technically be able to have the capability to adjust quickly. And I wanted to go into personalization as well and take it like one step further, looking at the other industries, Netflix and Spotify as a couple of examples of where they early on figured out that people want to be taken care of as individuals. So what's important to me? What do I like? What do I want? Solving those maybe common problems that a lot of them have, but creating an experience where there's someone taking care of me and my problems without having to visit a physical branch or something like that, but someone continuously taking care of my needs and being able to deliver that continuously.
Great, thank you very much for that, Babel. There's quite a few questions coming in on the chat. Let's go to Jean-Phillipe. Jean-Phillipe, anything to add to what you just heard from our panelists, or any questions on the chat you want to bring in at this point?
Yes, please, Mark. And first, a big thank you for our colleagues for this first set of comments. I agree on all of them. But if I take a step back, three things. The first thing is, I think that between you and me, banks have to serve clients. We need to be sure that we, as a banking industry panel, we are able to be useful and to serve the customers. It could be B2C, B2B. At the end of the day, we need to be sure that this industry is serving the customer and bringing, at the end, value. Whatever the way you are bringing value, it's all about how to serve. Point number two, I fully agree on the point that the real change that we are facing, and it's a big one, is the fact that we all know now that the level of expectation from the clients, and I am talking about the business to consumer, is set not by the banking industry, by all the digital players, which have put the bar very high on one point, which is customer experience. They are delivering a tremendous customer experience for many reasons. And we as a banking industry, we are working hard to make sure that we are reaching the appropriate level of customer experience to serve again the customer in the same way that Uber, Deliveroo, or other players are delivering an excellent service to the client. It is taking time, but between you and me, I am very confident in the fact that this industry will reach this level of interaction step by step. We will reach this point. It's taking time because we have a legacy to manage, but at the end of the day, I'm confident in the fact that we will reach this point. The last point is the following. AI is bringing something new, which is about, this is the first time that we are building solutions where the usage of the customer is directly impacting the performance of the system. Reason is, it's all about learning. And a solution based on machine learning models, for example, is evolving, is improving based on the usage of the end users. And this is something which is bringing new things, new tools, new skills within the bank to be sure that we are able continuously to train the system to deliver the appropriate service to the appropriate clients.
Great, thank you very much for that, Jean-Phillipe. I think we just have a quick look at some of the questions because we've got quite a few coming through and I want to kind of make sure we do cover some of the ground there. I've got a question here from FundMe. Marcus, perhaps you could answer this one for us. How personal is personal banking nowadays? Has the push towards digitalization resulted in taking the personal out of banking? In some instances, customer service is actually code for self-service. Marcus, any thoughts on that?
So I think there's a big spread across the industry, and I think different people are doing it in different ways. But even I think most banks now have caught up to providing at least some level of personalized experience, and that at its most basic can be just using relatively basic data to start to provide insights to customers. And I think we're starting to see that particularly in retail banking in the space I work in, around things like helping customers manage their transactions and providing information on budgeting and spending. I think that's we're seeing that quite a lot at the moment, and adoption, particularly in the UK, adoption starting to increase rapidly. I think there's a massive opportunity for the space, though. I think we're right at the start of. I tend to agree that banking of old used to be a very personalized experience. Banking in the last 5 or 10 years has been about digitizing that experience and arguably removing some of the personalization. I think the challenge now is how do you get back to what you would have had when you walked into a branch and knew your branch manager 30 years ago? How do you create that experience in a digital channel? And I think we're only kind of right at the start of that sort of evolution at the moment.
Great, thank you very much for that, Marcus. FundMe, I hope that helps answer that question. We've got a question from Tony Mitchell as well. What did challenger banks, maybe I could come to you on this one, Susanna, I'll say that before I read the question. What did challenger banks need to really move consumers from incumbents? Is it a question of time or trust, or is there something else required? Well, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's a question of those two elements. Trust, because we are newer like institutions, and some of us are, for example, platform business, consolidating financial services through our platform. Some of us are also challenger, like actual banks, and we need to build. And something really, really important to consider is that we have new systems, we have new business models, we have new products. So on a daily basis, we're testing those new models and products. So there will be, for example, learnings that come out of the daily experience from our customers. So that will create trust over time. And those are two components. Another component that we need is brand awareness. So basically, we're newer institutions. We haven't been operating in the industry for 100 years, 200 years. So customers need to be aware that we exist, the services that we provide, and the customer experience that we provide. And so it's on us to prove on a daily basis that we can deliver what we promise and that we can deliver it consistently.
Great, thank you very much for that, Susanna. And a question as well I'd like to give to you, Babel, as well. This is from Mira in Milton Keynes for Santander. She said, as Marcus suggested, we have digital channels established to interact with customers. But what helps you to make your customer realize that we serve them best compared to what other banks are offering? Do you have any thoughts on that, Babel?
Well, yeah, as already mentioned, like trust is a super important thing, especially for us as a challenger bank, and just considering that most customers inherit their bank usually. My parents had this bank, so I'll continue being a customer there. Is a big hurdle to overcome. So what you need to do is first of all, try to offer the customers a solution to the same problems that they've always had. So you need to have a baseline of products in your portfolio so you can meet those needs. And then what you need to do is, depending on the specific target audience, because you have the different type of customers, the ones that are interested in trying out new things, well, those might be easy to get over and start helping and building up that trust. And then actively listening to the other demographics or the other targets and figuring out how to solve their problems. So you need to work closely with the customers and build that experience together to overcome that kind of hurdle.
Great, thank you very much for that, Babel. I hope that goes some way to answer some of the questions on the chat. I see another question there from Tao, which we can come to if we have time, Tao, but we do actually have a panel at 12 o'clock today all around open banking and all around open finance, if you want to tune in for that one as well. But if we do have time, we'll come to that one. Let's move on with the discussion. The next question I have for our panelists, how important is organizational culture and the ability to remain agile? Susanna, let's come to you first on that one, please.
Yeah, I think organizational culture is key for to enable change within banks, especially large organizations like in the global banks. The employees, they need to have a culture in which the diversity, and let's go back to diversity, is foster diversity of thinking, diversity of to create new ideas, to innovate what the bank is actually doing, as well, support. And I think this is very, very important, is have a top-down approach and champions in the senior management levels to support change and to make sure that banks and employees in general, they have a growth mindset and they're willing to test and learn, because innovation is about test and learning to improve, the products, to improve the solutions, to improve the way how the processes work. So I think it's very important to have that support from the top down and to have very strong champions within the organization. And in terms of ability to remain agile, that culture, as I mentioned, has to be open, like it has to be dynamic, and it has to allow for errors, like to have errors in terms of learnings.
Great, thank you very much for that, Susanna. Babel, your thoughts on that question as well, please.
Yeah, well, I'd like to answer it in two parts, and the first one being like the ability to remain agile. That's not like something we talk about too much here, but it's just part of the mindset and the culture that we have. We want to be able to create products that our customers want and use, and we want to be able to deliver those quickly. and that means you have to have a mindset which embraces change, which enables you to adjust quickly. And the second part about the culture is extremely important, because that's how we do things. That's basically for me what culture is, and that's what's going to enable someone like us to continue growing quickly, to onboard the best talent quickly, to have everything done in a way we want it done. So the culture is super important. That's what's keeping it all together. And what we've done is, like a lot of tech product companies, we've divided ourselves into small product teams that are highly autonomous, I would say, and given them like empowerment and accountability for a specific product. And that allows them to innovate or solve problems in whatever way they see fit, which I think is great when you're trying to scale, because you can't have management solving all the problems. It needs to be built into the walls and in the culture.
That's cool. Great. Thank you very much for that, Babel. Jean-Phillipe, let's come to you. Any thoughts on what you just heard from your panelists, or any questions you want to bring in now, please?
I have to say that I'm very, very aligned with what Susanna and Babel said. I have 3 words and maybe 3 ideas to share with you. Point number 1, we need to acknowledge the fact that we are facing a complete new collaboration between human and machine. And this new collaboration between human and machine is not an easy thing for people. This is maybe the first time in our history where a machine will tell you that potentially you are wrong. You don't like to be taught that you are wrong, and specifically when a machine is telling you that you are wrong. Even if when it is a human, you don't like it, but it's a machine, my God. But at the end of the day, it sounds to be a funny topic. It's not at all, because it's all about the ability of a human to adopt this change, to understand this change, to challenge this change, to take advantage of it. First time in our history that we are facing this statement. The second point is about, as Susanna said, is about diversity. And I'm not talking about diversity because this is a trendy word. It's because we have no choice. We have no choice to be inclusive and diverse in what we do. And diversity is going much beyond the only notion of race or gender. Is, as Susanna said, also a question of point of view, on about culture, about the real diversity of the society which is around us, and we are part of it. So let's be sure that in our teams, you work for a bank, I work for an tech company, and you work for another company. We need to be sure that we are inclusive in what we do, to make sure that what we do is the reflect of the society, which is, fortunately for us, diverse. And we have no choice. It's not a marketing standpoint. It's a fact that we have to do it. The last thing that I would like to add, this is a personal perspective, and you can challenge me. I don't believe that digital is against physical relationship. I think that we will, and we are working on a phygital world, which is a combination of physical touch points and digital ones. The one which will be successful is the one which is able to manage smoothly, smartly, these 2 worlds, but because at the end of the day, the customer is always the same one. Sometimes I want to talk to somebody, sometimes I want to use a digital channels, and sometimes I will use both of it. The ability of managing this complexity is becoming now a critical success factor for any financial player in this industry. This is a personal perspective. It can be challenged, but this is what I think today.
Great, thank you very much for that, Jean-Phillipe. I think there's another question on the chat that I just wanted to bring to you. Perhaps Marcus, perhaps you could answer this for us. What are the top 3 priorities when digitizing services, and how do you plan to utilize third parties in this change? Is that something you could help with, Marcus, at all?
Yeah, I can try. So when digitizing, I think the first thing is you're trying to you're trying to take an existing, so digitizing really for me is about taking an existing process and adding that onto digital. And I think that's important to draw a distinction between that and taking a customer problem and creating a digital solution around that. They're kind of two different things. Digitize is taking an existing process and digitizing it. And then that fundamentally is about not losing the value that it has in a physical channel. So it can be a wide range of things, but ultimately you've got to provide the same level of service to a customer as you would do in a physical channel if you're going to encourage them to adopt the digitized version of it. Second, really about how you can actually improve that. And I think we've spoken quite a lot today about how you can use the data that we have on customers and customers are producing as they're using digital channels to really enhance services that you're providing to customers. So I think there's a lot about how do you take an existing process and as you're digitizing it, actually add value to that. And that can be on a really simple lens, just making it much simpler for customers to use, but all the way up to really starting to personalize experiences and actually automate things for customers. I think that's really it. I don't really have a third to add. I'll leave it to the panel.
Great, thanks very much for that, Marcus. I think if we move on with our questions that we've got down here, the next question I've got is for more traditional organizations, can legacy systems be updated or do you need to start afresh? Susanna, let's come to you with that one first, please.
Yeah, I think both models are possible, and not just. And let me give you an example. I have seen in financial institutions which have innovated the end-to-end journey for commercial banking or small business banking, in terms of loans, lending, using their legacy systems and adopting the best, like the features of those legacy systems, saying, like, let's say, to capture the information to process a credit application, to capture to transform the information that they are getting from the financial statements or company's house or the credit bureaus, and transform that information to enable an automation of the underwriting process, and then passing that information on using their loan management systems and the collateral management systems to advance funds. So I think it is possible to use legacy systems if they are complemented with new, for example, a new front end, which enable digital, like a digital experience in capturing the information digitally or via mobile banking. In terms of starting afresh, also, I think it's possible if the bank would like to have a more faster results and would like to have this. In my view, this works when there's one product or one service which wants to be innovated. Let's say, for example, online open banking or open access. And the banks can, partner, for example, with a fintech company, as Santander is doing, to get the open banking access and transform that information into insights for the customers.
Thank you very much for that, Susanna. Jean-Phillipe, let's come to you on that one as well. Your thoughts on that question at all, please.
My thought is very simple. What we called traditional organizations, they are not weighted digital to transform themselves. They are under continuous transformation since now many years. So it's about continuous transformation, and I think that Marcus can also bring his perspective, because again, transformation is not new. It's a continuous cycle, and digital is again a new cycle that they are facing, and by the way, that they are embracing within the organization. I have just one word to say. I think that we will work and act and think within what I call an hybrid world. And I think this is not legacy versus new world. It's about the fact that, again, we are building a new hybrid world where We are taking advantage of the legacy system. We are taking advantage of the new technologies. We are taking advantage of the new capabilities that the cloud, for example, is bringing today on the table. But don't do a mistake. It's not one against other. It's always the same thing. The one which is able to take advantage of all of this, integrate these different systems in one consistent and extended perspective, leveraging the different capabilities together, is the one which is the most successful and the most efficient in this new digital transformation that we are working on.
Thank you very much for that, Jean-Philippe. There's another question in the chat. I don't want anyone to think I'm picking on Marcus. I'm just going to come to you with this one as well, Marcus, if I can, just purely because I think the final question we've got some others to answer. So, Marcus, what do you think on this one? What do you see in terms of cybersecurity risk for the future of banking? Do you have any thoughts on that? If any of our other panelists have a thought on that, they can raise their hand or let me know. But Marcus, if you want to come in on that one.
I mean, so it's a massively broad topic, right? And I think it's an emerging and frankly, like ever-present risk for all tech companies, but particularly banks who, to go back to the earlier point, we're in the business of trust with customers, and fundamentally, if we can't keep your data and your money safe, that's not we couldn't exist as a bank. So cybersecurity is a top priority for all organizations. I think one of the interesting kind of themes and patterns we're seeing emerge now is as almost all of the interaction that banks do moves to online, cybersecurity becomes increasingly important. Both how do we protect centrally, how do we protect banks from attackers, but also as we provide more access for customers to interact with us on their own personal devices, how do we make sure that those are also secure and that the interaction between customers and banks is secure? So yeah, very, very high priority, and I think a lot of interesting work in this space.
Great, thank you very much for that, Marcus. And Marco and Ridwan, who asked very similar questions on that. I hope that helped a little bit. Final question we've got a few minutes to answer this. So how do you predict the banking landscape will change over the next few years? Babel, let's come to you first on that one, please.
Yeah, sure. I think it'll be a better experience, of course, for the customers, based on what we've been talking about. That seems to be on the agenda of everyone. And things are moving faster and faster, driven by the technology. So the users are aware of that, and their expectations are higher. They're looking at what they expect from other tech companies, and I'm including all of us here in that. So the expectations are getting higher and higher. And I think if we look back in 5 years, we'll continue seeing this consolidation trend that's going on, because I think there is a lot of good synergies when, for example, bigger international players merge with local actors to either get the technology or the customer or the local presence. And another trend I'm watching closely is big tech's entrance into the banking industry. Can already see that happening with Apple and their card, but I think they're still interested in our domain, and that might be happening as well.
Great, thank you very much for that, Babel. Susanna, your thoughts on that, please?
Yes, so in my view, a few things will happen in the future. I think more challenger banks will be founded, will come up to the challenge, and will add more complexity into their product suite. Because as we mentioned, as the time goes, they learn more, they have a broader customer base with that more financial needs. So they will provide a wider product suite in terms of, for example, accounts, bank accounts, lending products, investment products, payments products. That's one. The second is that global, as Jean-Philippe mentioned, the global banks and smaller banks, mid-sized banks, they will continue digitizing the digitization journey. They will continue leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the data that they have collected throughout the years, which is a lot. Like it's like they have trillions of data points that they can use to generate more customized products and better customer experience. And the small and mid-sized banks, I think what they will do, because a transformation journey, like a digital transformation journey, is very expensive. It's a complex product, it's very expensive, it's time consuming. So I think the smaller banks, and this is especially in the USA, in America, there are hundreds, like thousands of smaller banks. And I think what they will do is to partner with fintech companies to work on digitizing their products and their journeys, their customer journeys, instead of having projects in-house. And the final one is that there will be automation. We'll see automation in the mid and back office functions. For example, operations, like there are many operational processes, treasury processes, finance processes, risk management processes, which will be automated in the future. And these resources will focus on providing a better product and better customer service.
Great, thank you very much, Susanna. We've got about 30 seconds left, Jean-Phillipe. So final word to you, just 30 seconds left.
Final words. I think we will face, on a service standpoint, hyper-personalized, hyper-customized relationship and products in the next years. On a model perspective, ecosystem, more connected, more flexible, which requires a new mindset to partner with the right partners in a very open perspective with fintech, with other partners, other industry. And the motto is secure at the core. As you said, cybersecurity will be the hottest topic for the next 10 years. Exposure is high. Bank cannot afford to have breaches. It will be the super hot topic for the next 10 years, believe me.
Great, thank you very much for that, Jean-Phillipe. Thank you to all of our panelists today. Some excellent insights, some great opinions shared. Thank you to you for tuning in at home and watching this. Thank you for some excellent questions that we've hopefully put to the panelists for you. Our next session is at 11 o'clock. It's on expediting open banking's time to value with Rafa Plantier from Tink. I hope you can join us then. We've got lots more sessions planned for today and tomorrow, so do keep a lookout on the agenda for those sessions you want to join. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and keep up to date with all the latest highlights that we'll put on there as well. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much.